But I think the most important thing for young people to understand is there's $25 billion passing through this phone every second of the day.
Like earlier, we used to make projections for the next 3 to 5 to 10, 15 years. I mean, we had business plans projecting 5 years. And it's total crap.
I think it's safe to start. I think the most important thing pretty much with young people today is just start.
The term entrepreneur and entrepreneurship, then entrepreneurial platforms are highly overrated, Philip.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself, Bob.
Sure. I would love to. Give me a second, kindly. Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Philip, just a little bit of myself. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've been in the space for nearly 13 plus years in Sri Lanka. And I initially started my first company, which was specializing in developing medical technologies to the Sri Lankan industry. The first product we developed and manufactured was a wearable ambulatory ECG device. So started from scratch, then built it from there onwards, did the clinical trials, got the approvals, commercialized it, deployed in over 15 plus hospitals in the country, and brought on board nearly 16 cardiologists and cardio-electrophysiologists onto my board, and made an exit, right? And then started the second company specifically on a total different area, that is into education technologies. Then there we went into manufacturing and devising a product which is actually used for universities, institutes, to record videos, to record lectures, to seamlessly connect into an online audience. And then from there onwards, we had transnational connection. That is, you had lectures happening in Sri Lanka, then connecting all the way to Cambodia, to Vietnam, to Hong Kong. So they had the need, and I mean, COVID actually brought up the need in the first place. So we were in the market at a very lucky time, I would say. And that just helped me.
You got the wave. You got the wave.
Yeah, so I think that's about me, and that's where I am right now. And then I just wanted to specifically give you a small note, Philip, on why I started Entrepreneur X. The main reason, Philip, is I'm a true believer, and I'm a young entrepreneur who believes so much in giving back to the community. Because I think, Philip, it's high time we pass on this baton on to the younger generation, to the youngsters, because they are very keen in creating startups, building up the next generation. And I think it's high time that we become the lighthouse to maybe shed some light into their direction that will assist in their entire journey. That's a total expectation from my end. So I think I want some like-minded people like yourself to come on board and then share that experience, because that will really resonate on their life and journey. That was not something that was there about 10-15 years back when we started. So I just want to create that change in that shift. That's exactly why I want to reach out to you in the first place.
Absolutely. Love it. I'm a 40-year basically entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 15, almost 16 years of age. I've had probably about 25 different businesses, done everything from, I started in photography, went on to sunglass retainers, sunglasses, action sports movies, early days of MTV Sports, cinematography, video distribution, bikinis, surfboards, skateboards, t-shirts, clothing, then a little bit of fintech, then back to hard goods, tactical flashlights, pepper spray, self-defense equipment, and if anything, my latest project, the Presidium, is based on 40 years of failure as an entrepreneur. that was the starting point of my of this Presidium project.
Fantastic, Philip. And I would like to thank you for accepting my invite all the way from LinkedIn, and then for coming on board, sparing your time despite your very busy schedule, because I think it's a great gesture from your side. So thank you once again for coming and hopping on board.
absolutely love mentoring and sharing basically my advice to young entrepreneurs. I think today, unfortunately, depending where you are, the new generation doesn't necessarily. I'm a Gen Xer, so from 1969, when we started, the IT pretty much was an Atari 64 with two ping pong balls. We didn't have the tools that you have today, the Google, the iPhones, the computer, the capacity, the internet, AI. None of that was available to us. So we had to go out and basically do the hard work, basically find the factories, be inventive, sell lemonade, as it were. And today, the youth pretty much, they spend a lot of time pretty much, I would say trapped in IT, in the I would say the marketing resonance from, the TikTok channels and basically the social media, where it's basically, these are sophisticated, I would say, attention grabbers. So basically every time you click and you like something, what you're doing is you're feeding the machine. But I think the most important thing for young people to understand is there's $25 billion passing through this phone every second of the day. And young people, pretty much, all they got to do is think about something and they can grab through this telephone and start a business.
Correct.
They don't need to compute anymore. Literally right here. This is it. This is the new generation. And I have 3 children of my own. So if I see them being lazy, I'm kicking their butts basically, because I want them to do something. There's so much opportunity. They just got to sit back and think and say, just start. I think the most important thing pretty much with young people today is just start. The reality is nothing works out the way you planned it. In business, I think that as an entrepreneur, you can write as many business plans as you want, but reality, 3 weeks in, it's taken a different direction. Every experience, every interaction leads you basically down another path. And
totally with you. I couldn't agree with you more. Philip, I'm sure you would recall and you would resonate on this as well. Like earlier, we used to make projections for the next 3 to 5 to 10, 15 years. We had business plans projecting for 5 years. And it's total crap right now.
The amount of 30-page business plans that I've written in my life. Oh my God. And the reality is 3 weeks in, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Exactly.
It was for the bankers. It was for the people you were trying to get some money out so that you can get started pretty much. That's what it was for. But the reality is, I went I took several business courses and this was after I'd started multiple businesses, and I went back to school and tried to learn a little bit more about management and how they taught this in school, because this wasn't taught to us. And the most amazing thing for me is sitting in those classes. I was like, my God, if I ran my businesses the way that they're teaching it, basically, I'd have been bankrupt in 2 weeks. Because theories in a book, it's fantastic, but in real life, it don't work like that.
Exactly.
If anything can go wrong, everything goes wrong.
The anticipation for change is actually not put on textbooks. The adaptability to certain situations that had to come into our light as entrepreneurs. I don't think there would be a textbook anywhere, Philip, written to exactly explain it.
No. In fact, if anything, what I tell young people pretty much is go with your gut. Go with your instincts. That's probably the loudest voice that you have in any given situation. Go with what feels right. The other, I think, very important thing, pretty much, and I say probably the best advice that I've ever had as growing up is when you're young, and excuse my French here, you can fuck up as many times as you want.
There's room for error.
Doesn't matter.
And there's room for error. Yes.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. When you get to our age, then things start to count a little bit. You got to be a little bit more pragmatic. But when you're young, go out, try. If you screw up, doesn't matter. Pick yourself up, start over again. Okay. Youth is forgiving. People forget as long as you try. And I would say probably the best advice to give young people is, even when things are going very bad and you think, oh my God, the world's against me, everything is falling apart, I'd probably say the most important thing is to the people around you or the people involved in your business, even your suppliers, your vendors, your customers. If something's not working, don't let fear take over. Communicate, because the reality is most people pretty much that you're dealing with, if they have insight into your problems, it changes the game. And a lot of times as young entrepreneurs, you're extremely fearful. You hide. You're worried. And the reality is sometimes letting those problems come out into the open basically takes so much stress away from you, resolves many issues that you affect in your own mind have let grown basically into I would say insurmountable problems. And the reality is everything is solvable with good communication.
Precisely. I think that's a very good point. Philip, let me come on to that on a far more arranged manner. I have a very set of brief questions. I don't want to trouble you with too much of pressure, so that we can have a proper lining up, and then I would like to prick your brains on that, and I believe the community will definitely gain a lot out of it. Philip, I also will be recording this and will be putting on LinkedIn because the community matters, and I think it's really important that they learn from this. Philip, to start with, I think I just went up your profile, and then you have got experience from the military, then back into media, then back into technology. I would define you as a multifaceted entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. That's how I would see yourself. Just on that base alone, Philip, if the journey of entrepreneurship is of that nature, where you exactly encounter what you really don't want to encounter, and then you go into situations and you move into uncharted waters, and then it's your gut feeling that allows you to navigate through these uncharted waters, and then to be the captain of your own ship. I mean, that's how I would say it. Philip, in your experience, would you be kind to explain how that journey started, and down the line how it grew up, and then how you made the transition to where you are in that series, in that order, please? I would love to hear from you on that.
I would say my entrepreneur journey started from dreaming. As a young man, pretty much I was very involved in photography in high school, like, yearbook photography. And it basically was an escape for me not to be in class all the time, because I could roam the halls with my camera. And that's kind of where I started. And I would say most of my journey or most of the business that I started were basically opportunities that I crossed, a market basically that I saw, oh, this is something that I'm interested in, this is something that I'm passionate about, and basically I took a leap of faith. A door opened, I went into that door, pretty much, and then I would say creativity. If anything, pretty much, I think most entrepreneurs have a big amount of creativity, and that's not taught in textbooks. It's kind of both creativity and the willingness, I would say, to take risks that other people basically aren't willing to take. I mean, because I will say, the journey of an entrepreneur is not an easy one.
Correct.
It's not an easy journey. There are a lot of trade-offs. A job is secure. It's a life. It's 9 to 5. You have a solid paycheck. You have a lot of social time and a lot of personal time, and very little responsibility. Entrepreneurship is a whole different kettle of fish.
Totally.
A lot of worry, a lot of responsibility, many things that go wrong, and that's just where the creativity comes in. Basically, you are forced to be creative to solve the problems that you're faced with within basically whatever business or entrepreneurial journey that you're on. It's the creativity effectively that takes you through the path. And most of the time, like we were discussing earlier, where you think you're going is not generally where you're going to end up.
Correct.
And I would say probably the biggest thing pretty much that's important for entrepreneurs is flexibility. Basically, flexibility to pivot basically to where the opportunities lay and pretty much where the road pretty much, because you always come to forks in the road as an entrepreneur. And I see you smiling, there are always forks. And sometimes you take the right fork and sometimes you take the left fork, and sometimes you got to get back on the other one. But it's knowing pretty much when to pivot back. If something's not really working, and it's, again, I would say going with your gut feeling and adding as much creativity as possible to any given situation, generally will get you there in the end.
Exactly. I would echo on all those points, Philip. I, as an entrepreneur, during a general discussion, when I go and talk to the youngsters, when I have sessions, I generally start by saying, your first decision should not be an entrepreneur, because you have absolutely no idea about the trouble, the barricades, the problems you're going to face. Because the term the term entrepreneur and entrepreneurship, then entrepreneurial platforms are highly overrated, Philip, and
yes.
They have been sugar-coated so much that to the Instagram pages, to the Facebook pages, to Instagram reels, people outside they map the entrepreneurial journey to a Ferrari. They map an entrepreneurial journey to a yacht.
And those stories are one in a million.
Precisely. And to get to that, I mean, like, it's a facade that actually brings these youngsters into a terrain, and down the line they realize that this is actually not for them, and then they give up. So I encourage a 9 to 5 for a person before coming into an entrepreneurial journey, because I want them to understand the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, because rather than coming down the line with absolutely no idea and blaming to become an entrepreneur is actually a waste of time, effort, energy, and everything. It's a waste of life, because we come to this world with a purpose, and I am pretty sure every person with a pair of hands and legs and who is fully built is capable of reaching to a next level height. It's just a matter of having that passion and the fire within to go and to achieve what you really want. The parts, the no's, the barricades, they will actually go away, Philip.
You're absolutely right. I think the foundation or the separation between an entrepreneur pretty much and somebody that's a career individual, let's differentiate the two, is I would say pretty much go get as many jobs as you can. I mean, as a young kid, pretty much, I was in photography. I did a 1-hour Photoshop. I plowed snow pretty much and earned $20 for digging cars out of the parking lot. I tried everything that I could pretty much. And when I got a job, and the job was menial, and it was, it was clicking, I found very quickly that wasn't for me. I wanted variety in my life. I wanted the freedom pretty much that basically being my own boss brought to me. I didn't realize that young on, though, pretty much that it would be a hard road. Because entrepreneurship is indeed a hard road. And today we were just talking about the iPhones. On TikTok, you see the guy with his Lamborghini and the guy doing this. it's a lot of that is the guy on the Learjet, with the flash clothes and the expensive stuff. The reality is 99% of that is fake, is facade. It's candy, it's eye candy. There are very few that get to that level, and the people that do get to that level, they're not on TikTok with their Ferraris. They're
Exactly.
not on TikTok with their flashy clothes. They're not there. They have a life, or they're busy with their businesses. They don't have the time to be showcasing, because that simply makes you a target. And somebody that's dedicated and focused to their business, they're not out there rubbing their life in people's eyes.
Exactly.
And I think that's basically very much the differentiator. All of that, it looks great, looks fantastic, but it's fake.
Precisely. One key thing that I observe, Philip, is I've had my own experience in the Asian and the South Asian region. That's where I have worked with Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, so on and so forth. So those are areas where I have my own expertise. I'm not, I've been to the European and other countries myself, but I've not worked with their ecosystems on the entrepreneurial state per se. So Philip, just to get an advice as well as to get some insights from your perspective, how entertaining and encouraging is the entrepreneurial ecosystem back in US and in Europe?
Okay.
In compare, I would like to see the readiness of the ecosystem there, and how investor friendly is it, and how easy is it for someone to actually bootstrap and then to take the idea from idea to product to market. Would you shed some light on that, Philip?
Okay, I'm basically, I spend my time between the U.S. and Belgium. We are talking about two completely diverse landscapes, Europe versus the U.S. I'm an American, born in California, grew up under Reagan. My role models were Ivan Bousky, Bill Gates, the young tech people, pretty much. Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison was one of my favorite, pretty much, role models growing up, who invented the light bulb. So inventors. I lived in Washington D.C. or in Virginia, and so I went to the Smithsonian Museum and was inspired by space. The Pentagon across the street. So as a 10, 11-year-old, I would walk across and get pictures of cool airplanes that basically you could get from senior commanders in the Pentagon. So I was brought up in a world where everything is possible. If you dream it, you can do it. And that is very much the American dream, the American philosophy, and it still holds true today. If you dream it, and you can do it, but you have to be committed. The American economy, the American system of doing business, from incorporations for $99, the ease of setting up a business, the open communication between individuals, is paramount to, I would say, the American society, and why America, regardless of whatever financial or economic situation that happens within the world, has the ability to reinvent itself. Because basically, I started my first big business on 5 credit cards. Literally, basically, I had 5 credit cards. My best high school buddy pretty much had 5 credit cards. We started a company, and off to Europe we went. So everything is possible in the United States. In Europe, that's a whole different story. I've had many businesses in Europe. We're talking about situations of over legislation, very complex systems to understand, no motivation for the entrepreneurs, and the level of risk is too high. I don't recommend young people in Belgium and in other parts of Europe, pretty much, to start their own businesses. I recommend, first of all, that they take jobs. Government jobs are the best jobs, because the systems here are basically social democrat systems that encourage pretty much state dependency. There's so much overregulation financially and economically that you simply don't have the freedom. And society is built in a way where if you want to stick your head up above the crowd, which is the entrepreneurial way of just doing your own thing and not being a sheep within society, you become a target.
Right.
I would say your circle of friends are the first ones pretty much that are going to say, oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Because society is built in a way here where they don't want to see individual merit, individual achievement.
Right.
It is basically very much the group herd mentality. And it's very unfortunate because in Europe, there are so many creative people, very hardworking people, but the economics are against them.
Right.
You have a government pretty much that is, that spends the cost of government is 110% of BNP. And you have so much socialism ingrained into the architecture of the countries. Effectively, the governments basically are spending your money, and as we see pretty much in the downturn in Europe, they're running out of other people's money.
Right.
So the hardest hit people are the entrepreneurs, are the individual business owners, because the government keeps coming up with new rules and new regulations and new ways to extract money out of the outliers, which are basically the entrepreneurs and the business people, which is a very unfortunate situation. I think Europe has put itself in a very difficult situation. And unfortunately, you'll see personal taxation going up. The government's trying to become very creative in trying to get your money because they've run out of other people's money. And so I think the landscape for entrepreneurship in Europe is difficult. If you're in the tech space and you have a dream, fly to the US, fly to Dubai, Middle East, fly somewhere pretty much where you're supported, where systems of starting companies pretty much is not overburdened with regulation and 16 people saying go this way and 17 people going that way. And the reality is you're trying to figure out which way to go. Business is already so difficult as it is, just to basically focus on your business without all of these compliance and regulations. It's not sustainable. And again, I would say young people in Belgium, not just Belgium, in France, for example, you're better off pretty much getting a job first, building your foundation. And before you take that big risk and take that big leap, think twice and look for a more friendly economic country. That's my own from my own personal experience.
That's an eye-opening fact, Philip. I mean, to resonate on that, the values that the points that I can share is like pretty much in the Asian and South Asian markets. It's to be very honest, it's entrepreneur friendly. But but the challenge that I actually see is actually the lack of infrastructure. That is, if you are a technological entrepreneur, you are let's say you're a medical entrepreneur who is trying to build something which is not a software, which is like a physical product, or even if it's a software trying to scale. The challenge is actually faced in the form of, let's say, funds. It's a monetary issue. And as well as the adaptability of the society, which is now if you look at the economy and the growing economies, Philip, the mindset of a growing economic nations, a couple of nations, as well as a growing economy or a building nation is totally different. It's day and night. The hesitation to spend $1 on a subscription is simply is surprising, Philip. That is, people are far more off with having a free product with ads. And I mean, it's not necessarily the fact that they are unable to make that commitment of $1, but it's the
Yes.
planting of the seed within these
Yes.
Asians and the mindset. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think that is grossly grossly put on by the politicians as well as other peoples to control these economies in the Asian market, so that they are left better to be, okay, the word is like needy.
Yes.
That is to build a needy economy, like you are
Yes.
poor, you are needy, you're a growing economy. I mean, I just don't understand the concept of a growing economy, because like we have been a growing economy for, I don't know, for the past couple of decades, and how long is it taking for someone to grow? I mean, where do you draw that line to say,
Yes.
okay, this is the place where you need to grow? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. A lot of economies, and I take Europe for example as well, because of the social democracy, and I would say the government has overly socially engineered society to the point pretty much where the average individual is completely risk averse. So before spending $10 online or $20 online, they'll think about it 10 times. And since they're so used to getting everything for free from the government, they'll wait basically, or they'll take the app like you indicated pretty much for free, or they'll take the hardship, or they'll take a look at it. And a lot of people are just followers. It's a completely different mindset. Whereas the United States and the Middle East, you max out your credit card, you spend the $20, you spend the $30. And you get the latest app and you try it. Whereas Europeans tend to be a lot more frugal. They think a little bit longer before basically spending that $1 or that $5. And so that's the tech sector pretty much is certainly where apps and things are concerned. It's the young people, but the young people pretty much are so used to having everything for free as well that they're not going to spend $1 either.
Correct. So when it comes to those two components, Philip, like you said, I'm exactly not sure how we can actually change that parameter and change that shift. I'm actually, to be honest, I actually have no clue on how that mindset can be shifted, and as a result, what happens, Philip, is
It's what's interesting pretty much is there's a difference between the young generation is actually they are becoming more of a consumption generation than the older generations in Europe. Pretty much the older are grown up in hardships and difficult times and government dependencies, but the young people, certainly through the last 10 years, they see the lifestyle on the iPhone. They see the lifestyle on TikTok, and basically I think that's a little bit where the difficulty is going to lie, basically for governments in Europe, is the young people pretty much see the rest of the world advancing, the rest of the world have all these freedoms and these luxuries, and they're attainable. And they are trapped within a society pretty much where that economic freedom, that attainability isn't there.
correct.
I take the example pretty much, I don't know how it is in your country, but in Europe, when you start a business as a solo entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur, the crazy thing is you immediately have a partner in your business, a silent partner that you didn't know, that you didn't sign up for. Okay. And that silent partner is the government. So the government is always looking over your shoulder to see what extra dollar he can tax out of you as a young entrepreneur and as a business owner. And it's basically, it's stagnating growth and entrepreneurship, because the reality is you have a partner. And when you start your business and you make the investments and you borrow money from people and you get going, you don't see that partner. But within a year and a half, pretty much that partner starts knocking on the door and saying, "Oh, you need to fill in this form, and we need you to pay this, and here's another rule that you have to apply for, and oh, you didn't do that on time, so here's a penalty for you, and there's a new tax law that changes every 6 months. So also you'll owe a little bit more here, and the social costs. I mean, you take, for example, the social costs in Europe. The cost of adding one employee is effectively by hiring one person, you're supporting basically 3 people that are unemployed. It's an unsustainable system. And yet, however, I always say it, I've been here long enough where I go, my God, the bookkeepers in Brussels pretty much must be incredibly creative, because I thought Europe was bankrupt 20 years ago. But still, basically, they're able to creatively, basically continue. But at a certain point in time, I think that's going to end. I don't think many young people pretty much want to take that risk to pay that, rather than simply basically rely on government. So from an American point of view, it's a completely different way of thinking. I believe pretty much young people should just go out there and do something. However, I've learned the hard way here that society is built very differently.
Got it, ma'am. Philip, just to touch on a different perspective, which is directed towards raising capital and funding. With your experience, Philip, which economy, whether it's the US or the Europe, is ideal and very receptive to raising funds? Let's say for a startup, that is, you need to generate some seed capital, or it's Series A, Series B, so on and so forth. In your perspective, what region has the most sensitive and open-minded investors? Philip, just to tag a little bit of thought into that question before answering that. I've often had multiple discussions with investors. I've been on multiple boards to assist both national and international ones. Even once in US, I've consulted some startups. And what I see right now in US is that they are adapting to what is known as risk capital. I mean, investors are open-minded and they are willing to take a chance. Yes. They are willing to put some money on the table because they not only look at the concept, they also put some faith in the entrepreneur. They put some money on the table, on the jockey, not on the horse, right? And I've seen that. I've seen firsthand, and for me it was fascinating, because when we actually list the points down, and when we do a sort of, not like a SWOT, but like the pros and the cons, and we present it to the investors, and there was a time where an investor had a chat with me personally, and he said, Pramad, if we are to not take a leap of faith in him, who do you think is going to take that leap on him? I was surprised to see his mindset. I said, like, firstly, even if you don't progress in that project alone, I would like to applaud you for taking that mindset, because the idea of investing risk capital is so important, because most entrepreneurs die at the initial stage, when that stage is not completed, Philip. Yes. Philip, would you like to shed some light on that and how the European market comes in?
From a European perspective, when you bring in funding, when you're looking for risk capital, basically, like I said, they are risk averse. They're looking for effectively, you give a house basically to borrow a house. Okay. So very little risk capital here. And unless basically you have the right connections, you're politically affiliated, you come from the right families, a lot of nepotism, it's a very difficult environment to raise capital. And I would say you have to have the right background, the business plan, you have to have the right bankers. But effectively, at the same time, when you do get that funding, you're giving half the cake away, because ultimately they want the control. And unfortunately, as you know, as an entrepreneur, if you have to give up half your business or control of your business, there goes the motivation, because you effectively become an employee.
Yes.
And that's the European landscape. The United States, we're very different. We fund you. Basically, it could be the craziest idea, okay? But if you have enough passion, if we see you believe enough in what you're doing, okay, and you're going all in on it, that's basically where risk capital is going. There are thousands of pitch decks out there. There are thousands of great ideas, but I think most investors basically are looking for that secret sauce, and the secret sauce pretty much is you. It's the passion, it's the focus, and that's basically where people are willing to invest or take that risk in money. And I think America, and I think the Middle East as well. I think the Middle East is also basically Dubai and Saudi Arabia and Qatar. I think these are economies that basically also see the shift in AI and in technology and in startups, and they're willing to take the risk. I would say start with friends and family. If you're an early entrepreneur, try to get some traction, build some momentum. Don't start with pie in the sky. Don't start with too much fantasy. Start with realistic. And when you're asking for money, try and be realistic as well, and try and set achievable milestones. Say, I think I can get there. I'm not sure, but I'm willing to really, really try and work hard and get there. And that's pretty much what investors, I think, are looking for. They're looking for somebody that they can invest in who has a longer term vision. And the vision isn't, I want a Ferrari or I want a Lamborghini or I want a jet. No, the vision's got to be a little longer term than that. And focus pretty much on, okay, if you have this problem, how are you going to solve that problem? And also in terms, like we talked earlier, communication. You have a founder pretty much that got a really good idea and he's communicative and he expresses basically his vision. I think a lot of investors, that's what they're looking for.
Fully agreed. I'm totally with you on that. With that coming into the picture, Philip, I've mentored so much of young entrepreneurs, both national and international. And one thing is, I mean, the age has been. I would say we have a larger span of ages, like to see entrepreneurs. We have young entrepreneurs, we have mature entrepreneurs, and especially right now we deal with a lot of Gen Zs, which is like the latest generation. And one thing I see very strongly, Philip, is they are very passionate about creating something, and at the very same time, Philip, the downside of that is they are very they are very comfortable not being accountable, because because the reason is, now when we I've been on certain boards and I've been on there to raise funds to other startups to assist with them with the goals. So we assist them with the business proposals and the plans. And the fact is, when you go to an investor and request fund, it's another man's money on the table. So you need to realize, on the day that you have another person's money on the table, you are liable to make sure that you work hard so that the person who believed in you in the first place makes some enough returns. Because at the end of the day, they take a gamble on us. And it's their hard-earned money, right? So the most dangerous thing that I see is a lack of accountability. That's very different from responsibility. Responsibility can be transformed, like it can be given from one person to another. Like, I was responsible, I passed that responsibility to somebody else, so he didn't deliver, so I couldn't deliver. It's very straightforward. But at the end of the day, who is accountable? Like, you are. Yeah. So the fact, the buck stops with you. Yeah. So if you are the founder, if you had the passion to go and execute it, I mean, excuse for using these terms, I mean, you have to have the balls to face it, like you need to take the responsibility. The buck stops on your desk. Correct. It could be out of your control, but the reality is it's up to you to find the solution to that problem, or basically step up and say, listen, this is what's going on. And I would say a very important thing there is
do not be afraid to talk to your investors and partners pretty much about the problems that you're facing, even the small problems, even the personal problems. Because if you're a single founder or an entrepreneur, those tiny problems can be so overwhelming in your own mind, and yet to the people around you can be easily solved. But it's that communication layer, and we all make that mistake. I mean, I know you've probably made it as a young entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
You kept the secret because you didn't want to lose face, or oh my God, that's just the reality. I would say one of the big issues too. He touched upon that too, about young people in today's society as well. I love mentoring, and I have a wonderful example of a young man I met many years ago who's a factory worker, welding pretty much, and he had some girlfriend problems, and we met basically an impromptu conversation on the street, and I befriended him and he befriended me, and he had this secret passion. He was a photographer, and he showed me some of his photography work, and I was looking at his camera in these pictures, and I was like, my God, you have the eye. You have the eye, because all of his pictures had a unique angle to them, a unique view. And then basically, we'd meet up a couple weeks later, and I'd see him come home from the factory, all smooted up from welding or whatever he was doing there. And I was like, my God, you have such great talent in your photography. Why aren't you doing that? And so I spent years pretty much pushing him to pivot from the security and the safety of the factory job, which paid very well, and he was well positioned there, but basically to shift to controlling his own life, following his passion. And we've lost touch, but I follow him regularly. He's doing fantastic. He's fully followed his passion. He's expanded his passion, and I think he's doing superb. And it's just the biggest reward for me is seeing pretty much how I was able to change somebody's perception, and pretty much give them a different viewpoint and see them actually take the leap, step by step, but take the leap. And basically, it just shows that it doesn't matter what society you come from, everything is possible if you follow your passions.
Agreed. Fully agreed. And like you correctly said, the self-satisfaction that you get when you when you're able to shed some light onto a passionate person, and when they achieve their dreams, I think it's very difficult to put that in words, Philip.
Yes.
That
it's the biggest reward. It's the biggest reward.
Yeah,
it's the biggest reward.
I mean, that helps you to sleep at night, even though you realize that there's nothing to get in return. But the satisfaction that happens over here in the heart, and that pumping energy that's burning inside, to make sure that at the end of the day, okay, our words, our direction ultimately led for another person to follow their passion. I would live for that, Philip.
I think one of the problems that the young society have today, and I see this in Europe, and is a little bit the case with my friend there, is they don't quite understand the willingness of people like you and me, willing basically to guide and mentor, and without basically the expectation of any return. They don't understand that our willingness to share our experience, our failures, to guide them pretty much to see them succeed is the biggest reward that we can have. Exactly. To see somebody take control of their life, basically. We're not in for the rewards, but we're in it to see basically people that we care about succeed. That's what it's all about. And sometimes they just don't see that. Sometimes they think, okay, well, there must be an angle that this person wants or not. And I try to tell the young people, if you're getting advice from an experienced entrepreneur, take it, stop, listen. There's so much wealth out there, basically, because we share our failures. Well, when we're giving advice, it's generally based on experiences that we've had, and we're trying to save the young people from making those mistakes, and basically giving that advice. Because unfortunately, you see it with your own kids as well. they get to a certain age and they know everything. I mean,
I mean, we have all been there, right? We have all been there.
I have this with my youngest daughter. She's 13, and she's gotten to that point in her life where it's like, Dad, I know. And she don't want to listen right now. She knows everything. And then I try to remind her, I said, Dad's been around for a little longer. Trust me, there are a few things that I still know. Mom still knows. So never stop listening. That's the most important piece of advice. Never stop listening.
Philip, I think this was a very fruitful discussion, and like I said it, the reason for starting this platform called Entrepreneur X is also that is to give back with no boundaries. I mean, there are no strings attached to this platform. I just want at least a single entrepreneur to listen to these thoughts, have these discussions, and if they could take home one message, and if they could change their entire direction, I mean, that's a total expectation, Philip. That's the total expectation, and why I built this in the first place was actually that. Philip, just to, I think I've taken a lot of your time, so I would like to.
I would like to also just express, I applaud you, Pramati. I love the opportunity when you send me the invite. I think you're doing fantastic. I just absolutely applaud you. I think pretty much giving back and trying to entice and basically inspire young people basically to be entrepreneurs and to learn from others in this space who've done it before and have fucked up when we were young, but tried and tried again. And it is basically, I applaud you. And anything that I can do to help you grow your platform, absolutely feel free to ask. I'm there for you.
Thank you, Philip, for spending your valued time with me. And I believe this was a very insightful session. Hopefully, we'll be able to meet again and have another fruitful discussion, maybe with another community on board, because I am attached to one of Sri Lanka's largest universities here. And we currently host nearly 27,000 students. And I provide mentorship to most of those students. So hopefully I might be able to invite you to a session where I can connect the entire live audience.
I would love that.
Yeah,
I would love that.
So that's exactly my expectation. So thank you once again, Philip, for joining and hopping on. I wish you very well, and I look forward to meeting you back again on another episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. And I applaud you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.